Guadalajara, Mexico. Early, May 2017. 4-year-old Mateo Hernández wakes up screaming in terror. His parents rush to his room and find him drenched in sweat, trembling, pointing to the wall as if he could see something they couldn't. The Great Pyramid. I died there. The sacred fire burned me. His mother, Ana Hernández, is in utter shock. How could a 4-year-old speak so definitively about death? How could a child who couldn't even form proper sentences in Spanish use words like sacred fire? But the family's chilling detail was what happened next. Mateo suddenly stops crying. His eyes, still wet with tears, take on an impossibly serious expression for his age. And then, in a voice that no longer sounds like a child's, he whispers, "I must return to Teotihuacan. My priest father is waiting for me." Mateo's father, Dr. Miguel Hernández, a history professor at the University of Guadalajara, feels as if the world has turned upside down. Teotihuacan, the sacred city of the Aztecs, is the most enigmatic city of the dead in ancient Mexico. A city Mateo had never seen, never heard of, not even known the name of. Father, Mateo continues, in perfect Nahuatl that even Miguel doesn't fully understand now, I was itself. I was 8 years old when the gods called me. The couple stare at each other in shock. Miguel trembles, recording everything on his cell phone. Ana hugs Mateo, who is fast asleep as if nothing happened. But you haven't heard anything yet. What you are about to discover is the most shocking story of child reincarnation documented by modern science. A story that will make you question all your beliefs about life, death, and the continuity of the human soul. Because that night in March was only the beginning. The days that followed were a nightmare for the Hernández family. Mateo was no longer the same child. During the day, he played normally, watched his favorite cartoons, and asked for candy like other 4-year-olds. But when night came, something inexplicable happened. Every morning, precisely at 3 o'clock, Mateo would wake up. He didn't cry. He didn't scream. He simply sat up in bed with his eyes open but pensive, as if looking through the walls of time, and began to speak. "Quetzalcoatl is coming for me tonight," he whispered in perfect Nahuatl. Jade-colored feathers gleamed in the darkness. Ana frantically recorded everything. Miguel, with the help of colleagues specializing in pre-Hispanic languages, translated every word, but what they discovered chilled them to the bone. Mateo wasn't just speaking Nahuatl. He was speaking an archaic variant used specifically in religious ceremonies in the 6th century AD, form of language that existed only in ancient codices and that even the country's best linguists struggled to fully understand. How could this be possible? Miguel wondered every night. My son could barely count to 10 in Spanish, but the most disturbing discovery was yet to come. One night, Elena Vizquez, an archaeologist specializing in Teotihuacan and a close family friend, came to the house to see the event. Elena had dedicated 20 years of her life to studying the sacred city. She knew every stone, every symbol, every theory about that mysterious civilization. At 3 a.m. with the first light of dawn, Mateo rose as usual. "Dr. Elena," he said, looking her in the eyes, now speaking Spanish but with incredible maturity. "You're excavating in the wrong place." A shiver ran down Elena's spine. The temple of the feathered serpent wasn't where everyone thought it was. It was 13 meters further north, beneath the platform of the altars. Her priest father had hidden the sacred text there before the invaders arrived. The archaeologist was speechless. The platform of the altars was a structure her team had classified as secondary and had never been excavated in depth before. "Mateo," Elena whispered, "how do you know that?" The boy looked at her with endless sorrow. "Because I helped bury them before the sacred fire took me to the gods, doctor." And just as he had begun, Mateo lay down and fell into a deep sleep until dawn. Elena left home that morning, knowing her life was about to change forever. But what was to come would shake even their faith in science. 3 weeks after their first meeting with Dr. Elena, the Hernández family received a phone call that would change everything. Dr. Carlos Mendoza, director of the National Museum of Anthropology in Mexico City and one of the country's most respected archaeologists, had heard about the case through Elena. His offer was simple but devastating: to take Mateo to the museum unannounced and have him identify artifacts from Teotihuacan. Mendoza explained on the phone that if he had truly lived there, he should be able to recognize everyday objects that had never been exhibited before. On April 15, 2017, in strict scientific protocol, the family arrived at the museum. 6 cameras recorded every second. 3 child psychology specialists observed Mateo's every move. Elena was also there as a witness. What happened next left everyone breathless. Mateo entered the Teotihuacan room as if it were his own home. He didn't show the typical curiosity of a 4-year-old. He didn't run towards the shiny objects. He didn't ask what the things were. He went directly to the display case in the furthest corner, exhibiting pottery fragments classified as belonging to classical period household use. "This is my plate," he said, touching the glass plate on which his mother had placed amaranth tortillas. The archaeologists exchanged glances. Indeed, chemical analyses had confirmed microscopic traces of amaranth on that piece, a fact never before made public. But Mateo continued, walking towards a second display case and pointing to a small object that seemed almost insignificant among the more eye-catching jewels. A bone whistle in the shape of an owl. "Why is my father's whistle here?" he asked with genuine astonishment. He used it to communicate with other priests during nightly ceremonies. Dr. Mendoza's legs trembled. This whistle had been found 6 months earlier in a private excavation. Its exact function was a mystery. Until that moment. Mateo whispered, "Elena, can you tell us more about this place?" The boy looked at him sadly. "Doctor, you're misrepresenting everything. The Pyramid of the Sun wasn't for worship. The sun was the gateway to the underworld. That's why my father and I would descend through the secret tunnels every new moon." "Which tunnels?" Mendoza asked, his voice trembling. "The ones down below, 32 meters deep. The real treasures are there." There was absolute silence in the room because in March 2020, exactly 32 meters below the Pyramid of the Sun, Mendoza's team would discover the most extensive tunnel complex ever documented in Teotihuacan. But that discovery hadn't happened yet. After the shock at the museum, Mateo's obsession became uncontrollable. Every night, the child would wake up at 3 a.m. and ask the same thing: "Mom, when are we going home? My priest father is waiting for me." The other children want to go back too. Anya and Miguel could no longer sleep. Their son's words disturbed them. The other children. Which other children? And why did Mateo talk about Teotihuacan as if it were truly his home? Family pressure reached its peak when Mateo began to refuse food. "This isn't my food," he cried, pushing the plate away. "I used to eat cocoa flowers and holy bee honey. My stomach hurts because I'm not home." Dr. Miguel made the hardest decision of his life. On May 2, 2017, exactly 3 weeks after the test at the museum, the Hernández family packed their bags and set off for Teotihuacan. The plan was simple: to take Mateo to the ruins, show him they were just ancient stones, and return home, hoping his obsession would end. But what happened when they arrived left them forever bewildered. The bus pulled into the main parking lot of the archaeological site at 4:00 p.m. Mateo, who had slept through the 5-hour journey from Guadalajara, woke up the moment the ruins came into view. His eyes filled with tears. "I'm home," he shouted, with a joy his parents hadn't seen since the nightmares. "I'm home, Mom." Mateo jumped off the bus before his parents could stop him. He ran straight to the entrance of the archaeological complex, but instead of going to the ticket office like other tourists, he ran down a barely visible side path, hidden among the vegetation, a path even the official guides didn't know about. "Mateo, wait!" Anna shouted, running after him, but the boy had already disappeared into the ruins. When they finally found him 10 minutes later, he was kneeling in front of a small secondary pyramid, touching the stones with his palms and crying. "Father, priest," he whispered, "I'm back. I'm sorry it took so long." Miguel, with trembling hands, filmed everything, because what was to come in the coming days would irrevocably change our scientific understanding of life after death. And Mateo was about to lead them to the most important archaeological discovery of the 21st century. The first night in Teotihuacan was different from the others. For the first time in 2 months, Mateo didn't wake up at 3 a.m. He slept soundly until dawn, with a smile his parents hadn't seen before their nightmares. But when he awoke, he had an urgent task. "Mom, I need paper and crayons," he said with chilling determination. "I have to transfer the map in my head onto paper before I forget it." Ana gave the boy a notebook and crayons, thinking he would draw the pyramids he had seen the previous day. But what Mateo began to create took everyone's breath away. For 3 hours, without stopping, Mateo drew a detailed plan of the underground structures, tunnels, rooms, passages, and staircases with impeccable precision and millimeter accuracy, all connected by a ventilation system that no modern architect could have imagined. Mateo asked Miguel in a trembling voice, "That's my house downstairs, Father. We lived here when there weren't ceremonies upstairs." "Look," said the boy, pointing to a specific spot on the drawing. "That's my priest father's room," and he pointed to another spot. "We kept the holy books here." Dr. Elena Vizquez, who had come from Mexico City to document the event, examined the drawing for hours. What she saw deeply shocked her. Mateo's map showed a system of tunnels running directly beneath the Pyramid of the Moon, with precise connections to other buildings in the complex. But the most shocking thing was the accuracy of the measurements. "Miguel," Elena whispered, "this boy drew the exact distances. Look at the numbers he put down. 12 meters down, 18 steps north, 6 stone steps." "What does that mean?" Ana asked. Elena looked at her, her eyes filled with tears. "It means we'll be digging exactly where Mateo said tomorrow." "What if we find something? What if we find something?" Miguel asked. "Then we'll have to rewrite everything we thought we knew about life and death." The next day, May 4, 2017, Elena's team began digging exactly 12 meters deep where Mateo had marked with a red X on his drawing. 3 days later, at 2:47 p.m., their shovels struck the carved stone. They had found the first tunnel, but what awaited them inside would challenge even the most skeptical minds. While Elena's team dug tunnels during the day, something extraordinary began to happen at night. Mateo had resumed his nightly conversations, but this time the conversations were different, more intense, more detailed, and utterly terrifying. The family was staying in a small hotel 5 km from the ruins. Every night, precisely at 3 a.m., Mateo would sit up in bed and begin speaking in Nahuatl to someone only he could see. But this time, Ana was prepared. She had set up a professional recording device next to Mateo's bed, the same one Miguel used for his university classes. The sound quality was so advanced that it could record even the faintest whispers. The recording from May 6, 2017, changed everything. At 3:17 a.m., Mario began his usual conversation. "Father, why did it take you so long to come and get me?" Up to that point, everything was normal, but then something chilling happened. A second voice answered, a deep, echoing voice, speaking in the same ancient Nahuatl as Mateo. Definitely not the voice of a 4-year-old child. "My son, I had to wait until you came home. The tunnels were sealed, but now that they're open, I can visit you again." Anya immediately woke Miguel. Both of them listened intently, their hearts pounding, as their son engaged in a fluent conversation with this invisible entity. "The sacred books are still there, Father." "Yes, Itzel, in the Jaguar room where we left them. But there's something more important you need to know." "What is it, Father?" "You weren't the only one returning. There are other children like you in different parts of the world. The time of the Great Return has begun." Miguel recorded everything with his vibrating cell phone. The dialogue lasted a full 47 minutes. When Elena listened to the recordings the next day, her face turned deathly pale. "Miguel," she whispered, her voice trembling, "I've been studying classical Nahuatl for 15 years. That second voice uses only ancient verb conjugations, preserved in thousand-year-old codices, unique to the 6th century. Its language was equipped only with the rules recorded in those manuscripts." What does this mean? This meant we had documented something beyond rational explanation, but the most shocking revelation was yet to come, because Mateo had revealed the exact location of an archaeological treasure that would forever change Mexican history. May 7, 2017, will be remembered as the day Mexican archaeology changed forever. That morning, after listening to the previous night's recordings, Elena gathered the excavation team to make a decision that would determine their careers. Would they follow the specific instructions of a 4-year-old child? Mateo had been very clear in his conversation with the priest. Walk 35 steps from the Temple of the Moon toward sunrise. There you will see a stone shaped like a snake. Dig 4 meters down. You will find the room where I slept my last sleep. 38 steps. East. Snake-shaped stone. 4 meters deep, coordinates so precise they left no room for interpretation. Elena measured exactly 38 steps eastward from the base of the Temple of the Moon. Her assistants silently followed, cameras documenting every move. At the 38th step, Elena stopped. There, half buried beneath centuries of accumulated sediment, lay a stone carved into the precise shape of a feathered serpent. Dr. Mendoza, who had traveled from Mexico City specifically to observe the excavation, whispered, "My God!" The stone was exactly where the child had indicated. The team immediately began digging. At 1 meter deep, nothing. 2 meters. Only soil and small fragments of pottery. 3 meters. Elena was beginning to suspect something, but at exactly 4 meters, one of the workers' shovels struck something hard. It wasn't soil, nor was it natural rock. It was a perfectly carved stone slab. It took them 6 hours to completely clear the surface. What they found left them astonished. An intact burial chamber, sealed for over 100 years. When the video cameras were lowered inside, the world stopped. Breath was held. In the center of the room, on a platform of jade and obsidian, lay the mummified remains of a child, approximately 8 years old. Around them were priceless ceremonial objects, turquoise masks, gold necklaces, perfectly preserved codices. But what truly disturbed everyone was what they found next to the little skeleton skull, an amulet identical to one Mateo had drawn on one of his mental maps. Elena, with trembling hands, photographed everything. Miguel whispered into the radio, "You need to bring Mateo here immediately." "Why? What did you find?" "We found exactly what he said. But the most chilling discovery was about to happen the moment Mateo saw the remains of the person he claimed was in another life. The moment that would change humanity's understanding of the afterlife was about to arrive. Elena had insisted that Mateo not see the images of the burial chamber before he himself descended there. She wanted to document his natural reaction without any external influence. On May 7 at 4:30 p.m. Mateo descended for the first time into the chamber where, according to his own account, he had slept his last sleep more than 1,000 years ago. What followed was filmed by 6 different cameras and observed by 12 experts in the fields of archaeology, psychology, and anthropology. Holding his father's hand, Mateo reached the bottom of the excavation. When he saw the entrance to the burial chamber, he released his hand and ran inside without any external influence. Fear. "My room!" he cried with heartfelt joy. "Father, this is my room!" But his expression completely changed when his eyes fell on the mummified remains in the middle of the room. The child stood motionless for a few seconds. His eyes filled with tears, but not from sadness, but from a feeling of recognition. "This is me," he whispered, touching his chest. This is my old body. A shiver ran down Elena's entire body. Mateo asked in a trembling voice, "Can you tell us what happened here?" The child slowly approached the remains, without showing the typical fear any child might feel in the face of a skeleton. After the sacred fire ceremony, I became very ill. My priest father brought me here to rest. He gave me this necklace, pointed to the amulet next to the skull, and said I would return one day. "So what happened then?" asked Dr. Mendoza, recording every word. "I fell asleep and woke up in my current body with my current parents." But what happened next completely stunned everyone present. Elena had secretly had a DNA test done on the mummified remains using a state-of-the-art device to analyze ancestral genetic material. The results arrived 2 weeks later, on May 21, 2017. Dr. Patricia Ruiz, a geneticist at the National Institute of Anthropology, called Elena, her voice trembling. "Elena, I want you to sit down. The DNA results are incredible." "What did you find?" "We found common genetic markers. Mateo and the remains in the room have mitochondrial DNA links that show a direct ancestral relationship." "What exactly does that mean?" "Scientifically speaking, Mateo is the direct genetic descendant of the 8-year-old child who died 14 years ago." The silence on the other end of the phone was absolute, for what was about to be revealed would defy even the most fundamental laws of quantum physics. In the burial chamber where Mateo's previous body was known, archaeologists found something that would forever change humanity's understanding of the soul and reincarnation. Next to the mummified remains were 3 codices, wrapped in cotton fibers coated with sacred resins that had withstood the passage of centuries. They were perfectly preserved. Dr. Elena Vizquez and her team of ancient writing experts worked for days to decipher the symbols. What they found completely shocked them. The first codex was a detailed guide to what the Teotihuacan priests called the journey of the eternal soul. It explained with scientific precision how the souls of certain children could retain their memories when reborn in future bodies. But the second codex was even more shocking. It contained a list of names of children who participated in ritual ceremonies performed to preserve sacred knowledge for future generations. Written with perfect clarity in classical Nahuatl, among these names was Itzel, the same name Mateo had mentioned since his first nightmare. "This is impossible," whispered Dr. Mendoza, examining the hieroglyphs. This codex was over 1,000 years old, but Elena had made an even more disturbing discovery. The third codex contained what appeared to be a specific prophecy. At the time of the Great Turning Point, when the sacred stones were rediscovered, the chosen children would return to their original bodies to complete the sacred task. They would guide the people of the future toward the wisdom of our ancestors that we were preserving. The prophecy contained specific dates according to the Aztec calendar. Elena nearly fainted when she translated them to the Gregorian calendar. The dates corresponded precisely to May 2017. "Miguel," Elena called out, urgently to the Hernández family. "Mateo needs to come immediately. There's something only he can complete." When Mateo arrived in the room and saw the codices, he approached the third without hesitation. "Ah, yes," he said calmly. "This one is incomplete. My priest father couldn't finish it before I left." "Can you complete it?" Elena asked, her heart pounding in her throat. Mateo picked up a brush and ink, the kind archaeologists had prepared for documentation. Without thinking, with the precision of an ancient scribe, he began to draw symbols and hieroglyphs. For 2 hours, he completed the text that had remained unfinished for over 1,000 years. When he finished, paleographers translated his additions. The completed text revealed the precise locations of 12 more hidden chambers scattered across Central America. In these chambers, other child guardians had preserved knowledge that would change humanity's understanding of life, death, and the purpose of the soul in the universe. With tears welling up in his eyes, Mateo asked Elena, "Are there more children like you?" The child looked at him with infinite wisdom. "Yes, doctor, and they are already awakening." But the latest revelation was about to transform not only archaeology, but the entire understanding of humanity's existence on this planet. 6 months after the discoveries at Teotihuacan, the world was no longer the same. Mateo Hernández's case had opened a door humanity had been unaware of. The codices he completed became a map of an unprecedented archaeological revolution. Following the coordinates Mateo had set, international teams of archaeologists, in addition to ancient texts, had found 8 of the 12 secret chambers mentioned in the prophecy at Chichen Itza, Monte Alban, Palenque, and El Tajín. In each chamber were the remains of children aged 6 to 8, and codices revealing knowledge of medicine, astronomy, mathematics, and physics that modern science is only now beginning to understand. But most striking was what was happening around the world. Dr. Elena Vizquez had founded the International Institute for Ancestral Memory Research. In just 6 months, they documented cases of 47 children, aged 3 to 5, recounting their past lives in ancient civilizations with archaeologically verifiable detail. In Egypt, a 4-year-old child drew complete plans of undiscovered chambers in the Great Pyramid. In Peru, a 3-year-old girl spoke her ancestral Quechua language and described Inca rituals with historical accuracy. In Cambodia, Elena explained at an international conference, it was as if a generation of ancient spirits had returned at once. They all had a mission to preserve and transmit knowledge that humanity had lost. Mateo, now 5 years old, remains the most documented example. He helped discover 17 new archaeological sites, and his conversations with the priest have been translated into more than 20 languages. But the most powerful revelation came in December 2017. When the complete texts of all the codices were compiled and translated, they revealed a final message that would forever change humanity's perspective on its destiny. When the world is on the verge of forgetting the wisdom of its ancestors, the guardians will return. They will be the bridges between lost knowledge and the future of humankind. Their task is not only to remember the past, but to prepare humanity for the future. Elena closed the final codex with tears in her eyes. The phenomenon continued to expand. New cases emerged every month. Every week, new archaeological discoveries were made under the guidance of children who remembered seemingly impossible lives. And in Teotihuacan, where it all began, Mateo still woke up at 3 a.m. every night, but he no longer spoke of returning home. Now he spoke of preparing the world for the great awakening of human consciousness. Has your child ever talked about seemingly impossible memories? Have they ever drawn places they've never seen? Have they ever spoken in languages they've never learned? Because if the answer is yes, then they too could be one of the little guardians returning to change humanity's destiny. And this story is just beginning.